pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Jackie coming?
No.
Oh, Jackie's not coming. Oh, okay. That's why you're sitting there.
I always sit there. Oh, no, I don't.
No, you sit all let's see, what do we got? 6:30, we have a public hearing petition for a joint or identical pole location on Rattle Hill Road. Place one jointly owned pole on the easterly side of the center line of Rattle Hill Road, approximately 785 feet northerly of the intersection with Walcott Road. Do I have a legal notice for that?
Don't look at it.
It was published though, right?
Yes.
Sorry for the delay.
That's okay.
Why don't you tell us about it? You identify yourself and tell us what's going on.
My name is Matthew Fuller, rep from Western Mass Electric. What we're looking to do is to set a pole, as I mentioned, the dimensions 25 feet off the road center line, approximately 785 feet away from the intersection of Wolcott Road onto Rattle Hill, to provide power to 12 Rattle Hill Road. This is the McKnight residence.
Is there a pole there now, or?
There is not.
Okay.
Where the service is going to come into that property. I to be very honest with you, I was given this petition about 2:30 this afternoon, and I was on my way down to the Bissonnet Circle development to take a look at a couple of new houses that way. I didn't get a chance to site visit this before the hearing, which is a little out of character for us. As I understand it from the tech who designed the job, we needed the midspan pole to avoid getting into trees on either side of where the service line is going to run. And having a mid pole there is the best way to do that.
And tell us, I think I know what a mid-pole is, but tell us what a mid-pole is.
Mid pole is basically just dividing the span that's there now with a pole set directly in the middle of it, so we have a structure to hang wires on and or put a service line underground.
And somewhere I read that this is to separate clearance issues from electric and communication lines. There was new pole to correct clearance issues from electric and communication lines.
I think it's clearance from the trees to get onto the property.
Two birds with one stone. Right in the description here, it is also it will also correct the clearance between the two. We have, for the joint billing purposes, clearances that we maintain between the two utilities so both can work on their equipment safely and allow a bucket to pass through between the phone and cable utilities so our guys can get through there to better position the vehicles to fix anything in the event of an outage or a broken pole accident.
Is that pole right on 12 Rattle Hill Road?
It would be right in front of it, yeah.
So it's on his property,
It'll
property?
be in the town, on private property,
Oh, I got you.
in line with the facilities that are running off that street right now.
Well, I have no, I mean, do you need a motion or anything?
Well, let's get the legal notice.
Okay.
Make sure that it was properly posted.
Is it in
When
your
do you
packet? It's in
intend
your
to-
packet.
Hmm?
Is it in your packet?
Oh, well, we still should have it here, but the legal notice is it?
I think so. Is that what I'm looking at? On page 10?
Besides this pole issue, any other issues you see coming up with the town from you guys?
Not to be completely honest with you.
Maybe that's not what I'm looking at.
This is a keynote version.
Oh, sorry.
And this was published when?
4th, I think.
January 24th. A legal notice that was published on January 24th, petition for joint or identical pole locations. The Southampton Select Board will hold a hearing at 6:30 on January 28th, 2014 in the Town Hall meeting room. I'll skip the rest of that. Petition by Western Mass Electric Company and Verizon New England requesting permission to locate a line of poles, wires, cables, fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures to be owned and used in common by your petitioners along and across the following public way: Rattle Hill Road. Place one jointly owned pole on the easterly side of the center line of Rattle Hill Road, approximately 785 feet northerly from the intersection of Walcott Road. Reason: the new pole to correct clearance issues from electronic and communication line. And that was the legal notice. And Don't think there's anybody here to object, so at this point in time, I would accept any motion.
Motion to proceed?
Motion to what?
Proceed?
Or motion to allow the
To
poll.
allow the poll?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming by.
No problem, nice to meet you.
Hope you get some sleep.
Thanks.
There's some forms in the.
It's easier about the fourth kid.
Oh, wait, do you need to take these forms with you?
Do you want me to send them your way, or would you like to take them now?
I can take it out.
Okay. Actually, I think one of them needs to be something to town clerk.
Oh, we don't have a town clerk?
That's right.
That's okay, if it's easier to put them in the mail, that's perfectly
How about if I
acceptable.
scan it and send it electronically and paper?
Excellent.
Do I have your email?
I can leave it with you now.
Sure.
It's matthew.fuller, Fuller, @nu.com. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Have a nice day.
Thanks, you too.
It doesn't say, at least this doesn't.
One of the forms, she's got to verify that it was posted.
She has to verify that.
Yeah.
Not that she has to notarize the signature.
I don't think so.
Oh, excuse me.
This is amazing. One of those are wrong thing.
Here's the date.
Check that, see if you see any place for signatures. Oh, here it is. All right, we'll sign the back of this. You'll fill in the date and time, ready?
On the back here,
I
right?
found on the back of this, so sign, and then sign on the back of all of this.
Right here. Do I want me to date it, or do you do that already?
I'm ready to do it. This is electricity. This is something else.
Here too? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. No.
On the back of that green tab, no?
It's kind of smaller right on.
When you guys get done with this, you want it?
Scooby-Doo. So it's just one spot on this?
Yeah, one spot on the back of each one of those.
I read in the paper that Belchertown voted to go with the contract with the electrical
They
company.
did. They're doing-
The one we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, the HVAC.
Excuse me?
And the HVAC, electric contract, I saw that.
They keep changing that.
You weren't here last week. Jackie had done somewhat of a study and thought it was getting more expensive than,
But you remember when they first did it, we were going to get this profit sharing and all this kind of stuff from them. And then it got too much that the profit sharing got taken away from us about 4 years ago.
so you got the warrants.
We can do all of them except one.
You can?
We can do all of them except one. The one I can't sign, you'll have to wait for Ed.
Oh, all right, so this is P 1413-2. Ed can, well, Ed can sign now, because he's not highway anymore, right?
Sure.
So he should.
But maybe he was when that was still,
Yeah, it could be, Bill, so yeah, we better off, yeah. All right, the one I opened up first is P14-2, P14-31-2, in the amount of $45,283.68.
So moved.
Got a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, we're looking at the, do we already make a decision on the person that's not supposed to get paid?
We did.
Okay, that's clear, and there's no problems with that?
Yes, the person did not get paid the holiday for the 21st.
Then I have P14-31-3 in the amount of $622.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Howard, when we get to the one that you can't sign. And then I have P14-31-30, P14-31-1.
I can't sign that one.
Okay.
We'll have to wait on that. Although we could vote on it, Mike, to approve it, and then Ed just has to sign it, because we have
Well,
like
I
two
can't
or
really vote because we
two-thirds.
don't have quorum anymore when she has to abstain from voting.
Oh, okay,
But you can sign it and then we'll,
okay,
because it's got to get signed no matter what.
yeah,
Especially since it's a payroll warrant.
thank you. But isn't like an abstain a vote, technically?
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Because it's still, we still would have a quorum, she would just vote to say no, yes, or abstain.
Right, so why don't you make a motion?
So moved?
And all in favor? You and
Aye. You
I abstain.
And then we have PD-13-31, which is for $50,000, $50,298.86, with a note attached to it.
And the note?
I'll let you read it yourself.
Can I read it before I make a motion on it?
The
Yeah,
PD is for deductions. That's a different one.
and then there's a P14-31, and the same, for $31,200. That's the one with the note?
Yeah.
That's the one with the note. So do you want to take a motion on the 1331?
Yeah.
So moved? That's from last year.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Is PD 13 from last year? Year two?
That's a good question.
But I mean, it's last year, but it's still the same fiscal year.
Yeah, it's a
Just curious.
Notes underneath the left, the right-hand side.
This is the PD 1431 for 71?
This one.
It's this. This one.
Hey, Mike, what do you have for batteries in your boat? Do you have a big marine,
I just have one deep cycle.
one deep cycle?
I only need it for starting.
That's
I mean, if I needed it, it's there, but.
That one you approved last week, Mike, you're just missing a signature.
Oh, I'm missing a signature.
Mhm.
I signed it, Liz signed it. Oh. You can sign it. Go on. First of all, we do all the signatures, I'll give you open time for the public if you have anything you want to talk about. Multitask here at the same time. if you
He's
have-
thinking that's not a good sign. You usually just say, no, it's okay. So if you want to say something.
I might have something to say in a while.
Okay.
Well, we'll open, don't let me close the meeting without coming back to you.
Yeah.
What's the issue?
What constitutes a change in total? Just miss addition or something?
Their software is a little different from, the police department has, they have their own software, so it's a penny off.
Oh,
and compared to the accounting software.
gotcha.
This is nothing
Is
new.
that always goes on theirs?
Not always, sometimes they'll catch errors and
Gotcha.
You know, when we look at people that have PTO time, whatever it's called, their vacation, everything's all put in, right?
I don't know what you're trying to say, but go ahead.
Neither am I. Sorry, my allergies got me going here. So you have somebody who say salary, right? So they have so many vacation days, right? Yeah. So the way to track those is to make sure that they're submitting a timesheet so that we know they're not taking any time off. How would we know when they took time off?
they'll write it on the timesheet.
Right on the time sheet. So you can simply hash mark all you need. Took a vacation day.
Okay, and that's how we track it.
Where does it get tracked? In whose office?
Actually, it goes through accounting, and then it goes to the treasurer collector. and then
Does it
goes
show up
your
on,
stub.
it goes on your pay stub?
Does it go on as a school department employee? Does it go on yours?
No.
You don't, your stub doesn't say how many vacation days, how many...
No, we I actually just put in for personal day today, and I fill out a paper, and then they give them back to you, and you can keep track of it, or central office keeps track of it. But you use them or lose them, and there's only 3 of them, so it's not hard to keep track of.
This is an old issue,
Yes.
and I think we've talked about this ad nauseum. And I know there's a discrepancy of a penny from time to time between the 2 software systems. This goes back about a year or so. And I figured the individuals involved would just figure it out and figure it out, you would think. And I don't understand how a penny's difference in a $14 million budget should cause this much grief.
Well, part of the grief is that the salaried people don't feel as though they should track hours. They just put, they were here this week, and whatever.
It's all about control.
Yeah.
It's getting one person to do something different than they want to, and they update videos in. It's, you know, I have better things to discuss. And I think we all do. And I just wish people involved in all this would just grow up.
Well, here's my thought. Personally, I don't, if you're a salaried employee, I don't think that it's necessary to track every single day and every single hour. I'm hoping that whoever the person is salaried is honest and works the time that they're supposed to work, but puts in for whatever time they're not here. And I don't think it's necessary to know exactly what time each person was in and the time each person was out.
What we're talking about is public safety, and, you know, some days I'm sure he's in at 7:30 or 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and he doesn't go home until 5 o'clock, and some days he might come in at 9 o'clock and go home at
Right.
5:30.
That's not what I'm not really concerned about all that, because I trust the chief of police to not scam the town for money. Okay, I don't think that's the issue. What my problem is the payroll people running their numbers and the chief running the numbers, and there's always maybe a penny too off because of the software, and that these two departments can't just sort of figure out.
Is that an issue right now, though? I'm just looking at this.
I don't
I didn't think that that was part of the issue.
I don't think that's the big issue. The bigger issue is...
Well, it's part of the notes, but the bigger issue is the salary.
The salary, okay.
But it is noted every week. Does it need to be?
I had a long conversation with the chief about the turnovers. I don't know whether that's going any better or not.
I haven't done nothing yet. Yes, I heard you, Mike.
Well,
Our office. Yes,
I'm not opposed to signing these.
whatever one.
Either
Well, then
one.
David can sign it if you...
Well, we need a motion to
Oh, we
sign
need a
them,
motion.
but I'm,
Oh, well,
You already did, you voted to abstain.
To abstain, so David's got to sign that.
He's gonna sign it, when it comes in, he'll sign it.
And then,
we already did mine. These are on 14-31 and PD 13-31.
All right, then we can take the motion.
So moved.
Second.
So my question is, did the people whose pennies difference get paid this week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know what, if the guy got paid, I don't want to talk about it anymore, because it's just,
No,
It's not the
I wasn't focusing on the penny, I was
No,
focusing
I
on
was
the other.
focusing on
On the other issue.
the other issue.
the other
The
issue is
top
getting
issue.
people to do things that they
Well,
don't
there just
want
needs
to
to
do.
be a directive from the board, I think, either if your salary, then this is acceptable, and
Well, I think
I'd have to
there's
go
state
back and
law,
see
too.
whether- I think at one point in time, we might have done contrary, we might have said that, because I think there might have been that Neil Walker letter said something about it, I have to go back, it's gotten lost in the
didn't
fog.
it say that you just had to submit timesheets? I think that, I've seen that in the past, and it said that they needed to be submitted, but,
Unfortunately for me, it's gotten lost in the fog of the issues going back and forth so many times.
whatever the chairman's pleasure is.
My pleasure is tonight is to ignore it,
Well, I mean, I'm right in there with you.
play nice in the sandbox.
It's just not worth it. I mean, if the state regs say that you actually have to put down,
I don't think there's any state reg that says.
well, I don't know, I'm just saying, if there's a Mass General law that says, this is the one Ed has to sign. If the Mass General law says you have to track it, then track it. If it doesn't say you have to track it,
Are you lost? You walk in the room with your hat on and
I
your
know,
plan in
right?
your hand and the phone look like you're.
ominous.
Look like you're following.
Let the shotgun back there because the rabbits got hurt.
perfect timing.
You do have a little
Charlie, perfect time.
attitude going here.
Right, George?
Right.
So, Mike, there's no Mass General law, I really don't want to hear about it.
It just keeps coming up. I just showed you what was there.
Yeah.
You two responsible for this? Don't start, you're here. I work for you. I understand that.
At 7 o'clock, we have HGOG.
Here I am.
You're here. And we got 6 minutes. It's not really a hearing though, right? That's close. No, so we'd love to hear you.
Okay, maybe I'll move up.
Yes, come on up.
Oh, yeah, I'll move back. You
can stay there.
I like the shotgun. You like that? Folks, I'd just like to introduce you to Ken Nelson. He's our aggravator in county government, okay?
Hi.
Represents Southampton.
Former HCOG Counselor
He
Dave
has a few
McDougal.
words
Hi,
to
Liz
run
Wilson.
through
Nice to meet you.
the group, and hopefully
How you
we
doing?
can get going. Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
Thank
sir.
you.
So, it's nice to be back here. This is about residential and business electricity. This has nothing to do with town accounts. This has nothing to do with Jeff Rogers and Hampshire Power. So I'm not even knowledgeable about it. Probably you are more knowledgeable about your own discussions with Hampshire Power about the municipal accounts. So I'm not yet qualified to talk about it. About 15 years ago, the Hampshire Council, together with its member towns, including Southampton, decided to get involved in electricity. We started providing power in 2007. At around the same time, 15 years ago, we started asking communities, towns and cities to go through the necessary process to get town meeting votes, or in the case of the city councils, that's the city council votes, to allow the Hampshire Council to replace Rico National Grid as the supplier. Your electricity bills, the top half are distribution, everything from the high power lines, the guys who climb the poles. The bottom half is supply, pushing the electrons through the wires. Your town meeting passed this, approved this, I think, in 2011. I have a copy of the minutes.
I thought it was earlier than that, but
It was
There was
2010.
previous discussion, but I don't think it happened like...
we were actually involved to the point when there was profit sharing.
Profit sharing has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
But that was the program that we were talking about.
But that's not what I'm here about. I'm talking about residential. We've never had a residential customer.
So George, this is an extension of what we had before?
I'm not really sure.
It's, because HCOG had the program where we had signed up, so that was just covering the town offices, the highway, the fire, all that kind of stuff.
And the
school and
schools
stuff like
and
that.
water districts and those kinds of things.
That turned out not to be too profitable in the long run.
Well, different communities have done different, you've had a net profit compared to
Okay.
the utilities over the years you've been in here. And Jeff sent you some numbers about that, I think. This is residential customers. The way this works is we have, by the way, now 39 towns and cities involved, 165,000 people, which is bulk buying power way above what we've ever had with, say, Hampshire Power. And you approved this in town meeting. This was for residential and commercial business customers only. You signed an agreement with the council a couple of years ago, I guess. This is a revised agreement which contains a few extra provisions that were requested by the Department of Public Utilities so that this program could go forward. One is an almost nominal change in which we originally had the Hampshire Council was the aggregator, which is a technical term, and each of the towns were under this umbrella. Now the individual towns are called the aggregator, the council is an agent. From the perspective of the individual customers, it's exactly the same. From the perspective of the municipalities, it's exactly the same, except for one provision which gives the town more power than it had before. When we go out for bid on electricity contracts, you would be allowed to be in the room. You'd always been allowed in the room, but you'll also be allowed to say that you accept or do not accept that particular bid. The way we anticipated, this was something BPU insisted that the towns have greater authority if they choose. My own expectation is that probably 2/3 of the towns won't participate. Some of the bigger places, I mean, the city of Southampton is likely to send people there. And some of the tiny towns, Town Grove, population 360 may send somebody. But I think most communities probably won't. But what it will do is, if we have a price, let's say 8 cents for 12 months, and this is the best bid that comes in, the individual towns would be allowed to say, we're not happy with it, we don't want to participate. And so the other 30-odd towns that are in there would be getting that better rate, and the one or two or three towns that didn't like the number would. That's the only difference between the agreement that you're now under.
What happens, so you almost answered the question I was going to ask later. So say if you don't like the bid of 8 cents, say you figure you can get it for 6, just picking numbers, and you want to opt out of your program, how does that occur for the town?
There are two different things on this. There's an answer for a customer, and there's an answer for the town. The answer for the customer is that anyone is allowed to opt out and decide not to participate at any time without penalty.
When you say customer, you're saying individual residential customers?
Yes.
Or the town?
I'm talking about the residential or business customers.
Okay.
So they can take a look at it. If they don't like the number, they'll just decide they're going to not participate. In fact, they could, the phrase uses game the system, they could go in when the numbers are nice, they could come back out when they don't like it. We're not allowed to do that as municipalities. I'm a Belchtown selectman. We just voted the contract last night. Along with Northampton and Gill also signed last night, so we're something like 35 of the towns and cities have signed the revised agreement. And so for the municipality, under the terms of the agreement, basically were not able to come out of it except at the times that the contract expires. Now you would be allowed to refuse an individual proposal. There are a couple of things that could happen if any of the towns were to refuse a proposal. One thing is you could just end the end it altogether. The other possibility would be that we would, which is much more likely if we don't like the rates that are proposed, is we would put it on some kind of temporary electricity pricing, an index price for a month or two or something like that. And if we had good reason to believe that the prices were going to be better, say 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road. So individuals can go in and out basically at will. Municipality, which is representing the interests of the residents and businesses who do not have themselves another supplier. They're not involved with Dominion or Constellation or any of those guys who are sending their credit card offers or any of those people. This would become the default price for the bottom half of the bill, the supply portion. Meanwhile, the big utilities continue to climb the poles. They're responsible if there's a blackout. Having lost my power during a snowstorm for 8 days, I can tell you I'm not that happy with it, but I'm not climbing any poles, and then we're not involved in that at all. So, that in a nutshell is where it is. We are about to receive, and I'm hoping for it in days, approval from the Department of Energy Resources, who we've been in almost constant conversations. We're expecting a positive letter to come out for all of the 39 communities, and at which point we'll be filing with the Department of Public Utilities, who makes the final decision. So basically, you have a contract with us now, you have an agreement with us now. We're asking you to modify it to match the request of the Department of Public Utilities.
I have a question. So you talked about 3 major changes in this email I see is the technical change, the rare occurrence where towns could reject a specific successful electricity bid, and then the third says, did you talk about that?
Would be eligible to participate as a competitor in the process. If we decide to do that, and that's a decision we would have to make separately, and if we wouldn't participate in a bid unless we thought we had a decent chance of competing against the other powers that be. And I'll give you an example where we were successful in that. Then we would forego the 2 mil per kilowatt hour adder. We would go in there, there'd be an outside independent consultant who would open all the bids and make the decisions, so we'd be out of it. The one exception being they would make a half a mil, which is 0.0005 cents for the process of soliciting bids and opening them and running this process with all the towns who want to participate, either conference call or in person to do it. I'm not sure when that email went out, but beginning on December 1st, for the first time, Hampshire Power did win a successful bid for a town of Lancaster. And we got a rate that's almost a full cent lower than the national grid rate that was in effect for that town. The numbers on that, if we were able to match that, would be, well, that would be for an average customer savings of $6.82. That's what we're saving the people of Lancaster. Lancaster, by the way, is not one of the 39 towns. It's got its own aggregation by itself. And it's a town about the size of this, I think. And for that, the numbers, and I'd be glad to hand this out if you like. There's an editorial in the Southampton Sentinel, which is my hometown paper.
Unbiased.
Right?
Did I say something? I just said unbiased, sorry. How's Bill doing, by the way?
Bill is doing okay, but he's got a lot of stress.
He's
a lot of work.
He needs to
Health
slow
issues for
down.
himself, health issues for Sharon.
Give him my regards, please.
I will. And we went out drinking last night. I'm not sure he did such a good drinking partner, but okay. Anyway, so $6.82, which is what we did in the town of Lancaster. Did you get one? The savings for Southampton at that same number would be, in a year, $182,666.88. I can also tell you that the city of Lowell, which is much bigger than the town of Lancaster, but smaller than the 160,000 people we have, recently got a price, not from us, competitive bidding, somebody else won it, and they were more than double that. So if they were the successful bidder, you could take that 182,000 and more than double it, and that would be the savings to the people of Southampton if compared to the bid. Will it be the same over, year after year after year? I guarantee it won't be. This is a market that we've been in now for half a dozen years, and it changes radically every year. It used to be that all of the high prices were in the summer and the winters were relatively calm. Now the winters are worse than the summers, as you probably discovered, certainly my town discovered last winter, and it's happening again. Here we are only halfway through, and it's been awful, and it has to do with the availability of natural gas, which kind of gets, well, it's obviously much more used in the winter than the summer. It's kind of the opposite. It's what it used to be. This gives us a chance as residents of Western Massachusetts to have some control over our energy prices and keep the money local, not send it to big national and international firms, and have some say in what's going on, some understanding. And electricity is what we do every day. And you own us, by the way. I am your employee because the Hampshire Council is owned by the member towns.
How often do these electricity prices go out to bid?
Representative.
Yes, thank you.
How often do these electricity prices go out to bid? Once a year?
That's a decision. I think initially we will put it out for bid, and we'll have a number of different bids. We'll probably put it out for a 6-month bid, a 12-month bid, and maybe a longer bid, and kind of, since we'll know more or less in advance what the ranges are going to be, let's say a week or two in advance, we will prepare the towns that want to participate as to what we're expecting to happen. Decisions are going to have to be made. If you get 7 cents for 6 months and 8 cents for 12 months, which is the better deal? Let's say the going rate is 9 cents. I don't know. It depends on what people in the industry are thinking is going to happen 6 months down the road. We have another special problem, and that is of our 160,000 people. About 80,000 live in Wamiko and about 80,000 live in National Grid, and I've been promising town meetings, including yours, that we would have a lower price on day one than the given rate, the default rate then in effect. Well, the default rates between National Grid and Wamiko are never the same. I did a study over the last dozen years, and they were within a 100th of a cent average the same, but they start on different months, and they have different rates. So for us to beat it, we might have to do a separate bid, at least initially, between National Grid and Wamiko, but we would like to eventually unify it, because the bigger the purchase, the more likely you are to get participation. And I can tell you that generally, even smaller communities have been getting 5 or 6 bids, and they will take us seriously, because we're pretty quick chunk, and we're continuing to grow.
I said
Like I said, we just signed a new town last week.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So, let's say I get my electric bill. I live in town and I don't like it.
Well, yeah, I guarantee you won't like it.
Well, I guess probably most people just look at it and say, it is what it is. This is the bill and there's not much I can do about it. What can I, as just myself, what can I do? What does this mean for me?
Right, at the moment, you have 2 options. You can either stay with what's there, or you can go to one of these outside suppliers, national, international companies. You can take the points, you can take the $50 deal. I mean, I've heard some real horror stories about that.
And what do they do? Come change the way your electricity is supplied to your house?
Typically you sign a contract which will be a given rate for a given amount of time, and there'll be penalties if you decide you don't like it after 6 months or whatever. Certainly if you're going to get something like airline points or debit card or something.
You don't do that?
I'm getting them. I'm getting one a week now.
Let me just explain it. So what happens is all the wires stay the same.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is these producers go into the grid, and they put their energy into the grid at whatever costs they're going, and their percentage of what that goes into the grid is figured out. This is all this math stuff. And then you say, those electrons coming from this better place are the ones I'm using, where in fact they're just all into the grid. And so you hook up with that person, and that person is paying the cost to put the electrons into the grid.
That's correct. The bottom half of the bill, which is called supply.
So that's no changing of anything, and those guys bid in between, depending if they're coal-fired, gas, hydro, whatever, whoever they're trying to do, whatever their gig is, if they're getting those carbon credits and those other things that come into play with some of that.
RECs, renewable energy credits.
And so it's all a whole bidding process, and they're trying to get customers and, cut costs as much as possible, but you never really see the change. It's just who claims that their electrons went to your house, when in fact, they could have gone anywhere.
Okay.
Everybody's buying through ISO New England. We are a licensed supplier through Hampshire Power, so we're also a voting member of ISO New England. The one difference you'll see is the price per kilowatt hour. And so those two choices now available. The third choice would be, particularly to customers, the third choice to residents and businesses would be, in addition to that, they would now have the opportunity to participate in this bulk purchase through the Hampshire Council. And if they don't like the number, they can call the utility, call us, and get out of it at the next meter read. If they do like it, they continue. But we're expecting, based not only on ourselves, but on Cape Light, which has been doing this for Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard since 2001, and a few other places, City of Marlborough has been doing this since 2006. We're expecting that over a period of years, we will be saving people in the valley a lot of money.
I have a question. I came in late, so I apologize. I didn't hear your whole speech. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the customer has the option to stay where he is, or to pick this particular option. How long is he committed, or they are committed to stay in this option if they want to change back?
1 month.
Okay.
Meter read date to meter read date. It might take a little longer if it takes the utility, you gotta give them notice and stuff, so maybe 2 months. But it's not like it's not like one of these contracts where you have to wait a year.
Correct.
How often How often do people opt out? And how often do they say, I don't like this rate, and go somewhere else?
Almost not at all. The history is that 97% of people stay in. Much lower proportion of businesses. And this only applies to those who do not have an outside supplier. So the big box stores, factories, they generally have national contracts. They're not involved in this. The estimate now is something on the order of 13% of the people in Massachusetts are not working with NSTAR in the eastern part of the state, National Grid, WMECO, there's another one, Unitil, which has a few towns. So 87% of residences would be included, and it's probably the same here. And typically about 50% of businesses, generally the small stores are on the default rate. The larger the business, the higher proportion of anything. Because it's worth it to these big guys to go out knocking on doors and paying people commissions, which we don't get, by the way, unfortunately. To go out to get the big boys, but ordinary residential customers haven't been able to take advantage of the deregulation, which is now 17 years old.
I just want to be clear for the people at home that it's going to take some it's not going to happen automatically. They've got to take an affirmative step.
No,
No?
no. By law, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 164, Section 134A, which I live under, in Massachusetts, as well as in all the other states that have this, California, Illinois, New Jersey, Ohio, it's an opt-out, which means that once all the pieces are in place and we have a bid that we've agreed by consensus is the one we're going to accept, a letter goes out to every customer and it says, here is the existing rate, here is the new rate, and if you want to pay more for the existing rate, you're willing, then just return this postcard and continue to pay the higher rate. Anyone who does not respond on an opt-out automatically gets the lower rate. And that's why it's important that we give a lower rate on day one. Because if people neglect to respond, if the dog eats the card, whatever it is, then they wouldn't, they might go a month or two before they realize the change took place. And it's going to be a month from the time you send it, and then the change takes place, and then they get their bill a month later, and then they open it. They will be paying a lower rate.
What if the rate isn't lower?
Well, we'll be in day one, and after that, we'll be announcing the rates because that's going to be a public bidding process.
Then they'll have to opt out at that point.
If they want to.
Does a letter go out every time that rate changes?
But we'll be doing a newsletter, we'll be doing an email newsletter, those one obviously will be informing the towns. It's more than informing the towns because you're going to...
Will the newsletter be going to the customers, individual residential homes?
Yes.
Okay.
So, well, no. You would know.
You will certainly know because you're going to be involved in it.
Right.
And if you don't like the numbers, then you might choose not to participate. There are times you might take a higher price though. Let's suppose the winter's coming, you know the price is going to go up by a lot. Maybe even the utilities have announced a price increase, but it hasn't taken effect yet. And the price might be a penny more than the current rate. But you know it's going to be 2 cents less than the rate in 2 months. Well, that would be a rational decision to accept that. I mean, these are the kinds of things we're going to have to work out, and we're going to have to educate the towns to understand this, as well as the residential customers.
As you move through this, you would notify the Board of Selectmen that the bidding process is now open, and on X day, we're going to go over the bids, and if you want to be there, a representative from our board can be there. Can the residential customers be there?
Well, legally, bid process, I guess, is open meeting law, isn't it? I think it probably is, so I guess so.
But could they make a comment? Could someone...
I would think not. I would think, maybe the press might come. But the point is, the municipalities would be allowed to be in the room and see the bids and make a decision. Now,
we could weigh in on what we thought was the appropriate thing and be part of that discussion.
Yeah, and I've been saying that if, let's say, this isn't going to be a majority vote, if 60% of the towns like it and 40% don't like it, that probably says to me it's a bad decision. But we'll play that as it goes and see. These numbers have been astonishing to me. So,
I have a question. Now this takes place, and we have citizens that have concerns. I really don't want the citizens to be coming into the Board of Selectmen to fight their battle. Is there going to be a customer service?
Oh, absolutely. There's an 800 number we already have.
But is that going to be local? Or is that going to be...
Yeah, we're in Northampton.
Oh, I understand that. I don't want to hear it from Taiwan or something like that, like some of our other services. That's all. I just want to make sure there's somebody we can send to.
I can tell you because this is the first time we've had experience with this in December and now January, in which with the town of Lancaster, our name and phone number appeared on their bill, and they call us, and we've had from that town maybe 15 or 20 calls in the month. So it isn't a lot. One of them was wondering, they had their previous supplier, this was an existing application, was Constellation, and they were calling Texas. How did the switch happen? So forth. So we explain it, and they're welcome to opt out. The first thing we say is, if you don't want it, you can get out. I don't know if any of them have. I mean, the thing they didn't like was that their National Grid went up 38% from November to December. I'm feeling it because...
Well, we're Western Mass here.
Yet. So they went from 7 cents to 10 cents. We're charging 9 because we were the best bid. Well, they're thinking, oh, it went from 7 to 9, who did this? But in fact, they're saving, well, the numbers are here, $6.82 a month average. And of course, a lot of people have a lot more use than that. It's a new world, and it changes every month and certainly every year, and at least this way, those of us in Western Massachusetts will have some control over it.
George, as our representative, what's your feeling on this?
Yes, Ken did an awful lot of work on this deal. You know, we've got to get something like this to survive in county government.
I'm going to interrupt here because here's a quandary I don't know the answer to. Jackie's evidently watching us at home and has sent in a comment.
Yeah, go ahead. I have no problem with that.
Well, I have problems with the open meeting law and the fact that she's not present. I'm not sure whether you can or you can't, so I'm putting it out to the board, whatever you want to do.
Do you want me to read it?
I'm not sure what the proper etiquette is here. I'm lost in the new age of...
I'll read it. I mean, it's just...
Well, I'm not saying read it out loud. I'm not saying read it out loud.
Oh, okay, I won't read it out loud. Maybe I could paraphrase it in a different...
No, I'm asking whether or not it's legal.
Maybe I'll think of a question after I read it.
I'm not even sure we should be circulating it, but I don't know what to do with modern technology in a meeting. I know in Connecticut you can have it, she could communicate through a speakerphone, but I don't know in Massachusetts.
No, you got to be present. So,
I think so, too.
in all the phone calls that you got, did any of the customers complain about loss of control? Like, how come I didn't know about this? Or because we had some of that in the past when we changed, we were trying to change things.
How did this happen? Because they were seeing a big increase.
Yeah, how come I didn't know this was going to happen? How come I didn't tell me you were going to switch?
And some of them didn't know their town had done this. Now remember, they were already in for a year. They had left National Grid a year ago. So it wasn't exactly the same as what we're talking about here. But the first thing that struck me, and this may seem like a silly thing, is they were amazed that on the first ring somebody answered the phone and it was a human being. And it was a human being who was not working for a big multinational. You know, National Grid is on the London Stock Exchange, it's not even an American company. You know, we answer the phone, and whoever's in the office picks up and talks them through it. You know, listens first of all, and explains it. And most of them are perfectly happy. One said he thinks that the increase in price for National Grid is an outrage, and he's going to research it and fight it in Boston. Fine, you know. But most were just ordinary people who were confused, and we explained it, and we explained that we won the competitive bid. This was the lowest bid that we were able to get, and if they, you know, they were free to leave at any time, this month, next month, or whatever, without any penalty.
Have any towns rejected it yet?
This agreement?
Yes.
Yeah, Buckland.
Have any idea why?
Basically, I think they were having a problem with Hampshire Power on the municipal accounts. And it wasn't even Buckland's, it was Colerane's, and one of the selectmen is a town administrator in Coleraine. Buckland is probably a population of about 1,000, so that's out of the 160,000. I think that's the only one that has rejected, and we're going back to them because we want to discuss it with them further.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment. Having been on HCOG, I was amazed of the time put in by all these people trying to do something, and I was actually kind of frustrated being on HCOG because there was no money to really control, so we really hadn't any controls. A lot of great discussion around the table.
I was chairman of the finance committee.
Yeah, and it was just like, I was just like, you know, this. So, but I did make a lot of nice contacts through that, including Bill. from Belchertown. And I think we've made out very well with HCOG and its mass buying with the highway. I shouldn't do that anymore, should I?
No, the highway department.
Well, Mr. Cawley used to be the highway superintendent for a small town in western Mass, and he dealt with HCOG, and he knows the buying power is actually able to save money. And I know the electrical program has saved money for our town as well. Now, in the beginning, you guys kind of oversold it, and there was going to be the profit sharing and everything else, and obviously that's sort
Profit
of...
sharing was very good the first couple of years.
It was very good, but HCOG couldn't really afford it, from my understanding, when I was on
We were
HCOG.
in real time, we saved $70,000 that first year.
Yeah, but you can do it again. But anyways, you know, our past experience, my experience, and experience with the town as being a selectman, is that it has been a good thing. My experience in Southampton is sometimes people worry about not understanding how it actually works and how things are changes. How come you're going to get it cheaper than they're getting it? What's the difference? And I think that has to be really sort of explained in a way that people understand the bidding process and how people generate electricity and pop it into the grid and how the prices change on that. I would be supportive in going forward with this, Michael.
Well, then we're at the end of our time for discussion on this. If there's any comments from the audience, I'll take those. If there's no comments from the audience, whatever the board's pleasure is.
Well, I'd take a motion to move forward with this.
Well, we have a contract here. You're out there. I believe they're asking us to sign a revised contract.
Are the revisions in that contract just the three things that we talked about?
Yes.
Do we need to
Is that
send
in
it?
here?
Do we need to send it to town council, Michael?
We could vet this through town council. I don't know what they're
I
going
can
to...
tell you, I mean, it's going, I'm not going to tell you not to see lawyers. It's been approved by at least two lawyers, Copeland and Page, and a couple of other lawyers that I know of who are not in Copeland and Page.
Just to summarize, what we're doing is we're committing the town and the residential customers of the town to buying the supply end of their electricity through the Hampshire County government, and they're going to default to that at some point in time, and the only way out of it will be an affirmative action on their part to say they don't want it.
That's correct, although to say the only way, I mean, it's very simple, we're paying postage both ways.
No, I'm just saying,
Yes.
it's going to take some action on their part. I want to make sure that there's a
If they
clear...
want to pay the higher price, then
Assuming it's a higher price.
Oh, it will be.
I'm just saying-
We're not going to accept a bid that isn't.
I'm just saying that the alternative is you're in this program, or you can sign a card, send it back, and be in this program,
And stay where you are.
or whatever programs are available.
Well, that's the third possibility, and that's they can, respond to these mailings
Right.
and get the JetBlue points or whatever.
Just a quick question, sorry, can a consumer change at any time along the way, or is there a certain anniversary date?
In our program, yes.
Okay. So if I'm on
Subject
it for
to
a
the
year-
next meter read date.
Okay, so if I'm on it for a year and I don't like it, then I can switch.
Yes, with no penalty at any time.
It's been explained to us, John, it's as little as a month.
Okay. That's fair.
Meter reading to meter reading.
Let me tell you that the law says the first 180 days without penalty. We have adopted a permanent ban on penalties. So some of the old stuff, in fact, the old contract may say 180 days.
And that's not in this contract.
If it is, cross it out.
Do we have a hard
Seriously.
copy of it, Michael?
Yeah, I got a multi-page, cross it out.
Can we,
I have a clean one. If you want.
No, I haven't marked it up at all.
can we just contact, I mean, I think we should move forward if, we just get a information from Copeland and Page.
You want to send this down a documented page? Is that your motion?
Well,
May I make a suggestion that because of the timing, if you're willing to do it subject to agreement from Copeland and Page, I could also send you, their stuff.
What is your time frame?
And authorize one of you to sign it. Well, we're expecting to be filing in the next, week or two or three with you. If you could trust one of you to sign it or vote to authorize that person subject to X, Y, and Z.
I'll make a motion to authorize Michael to sign it if it's vetted by town council.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
It only requires our one signature anyway, doesn't it? It doesn't require the whole board to sign. So, we send that down to...
Yeah, would advise Calhoun Page has been reviewed by other attorneys there, please, so we don't
Yeah,
pay
I'd say
twice.
parenthetically,
we don't spend the
two
money.
different lawyers at Copeland Page.
Who? Which one's the
One is Dineski,
Yeah, David Dineski?
David Dineski?
right, he did Upton and 10 of Upton, and a different lawyer there did 10 of North Brookfield, and their language is identical. It wasn't to have either of those,
So
or...
we've dealt with David before, so. All right, thank
Well,
you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Can't
Say hi to
have
Bill.
David Dineski review it.
Thanks so much, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George, behave yourself.
Reggie, will you send that down at? Ed had a good point.
Leaving to everybody
Oh,
today.
Tell Pat Cantor to
For
research
the
this.
record, I have delivered the dog tags,
What are they?
and George put them out there, I hope they're still there. Should I bring it in here?
Where the other hand and go with Charlie.
They're 24 karat gold dog tags.
Sorry, are you here for us tonight?
No, I'm not here.
Oh, okay. I didn't see you on the agenda, so.
We decided to meet with the historical
Oh,
commission to sort of give them a quick overview. But
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't
no, things are
missing
cool.
you. Missing you.
Thank you.
It's happened before when I stepped into the.
Well, I wasn't going, uh-oh, I just was hoping I hadn't missed you somehow.
Yeah, no.
And that goes with it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, the shotgun was missing, that was all.
That was a good sign.
Good luck tonight, everybody.
Michael, you want the dog tags?
That's what I
Who
said.
got the dog tags?
Woof, woof.
What are you talking about? Rarely do I know what he's talking about, and I know less now.
Those are the dog tags.
These are dog tags.
I was just about to say, if you're both here, where's Caleb? But I see him.
For dogs.
For dogs?
For dogs, not for cats. They'll be cat tags.
Okay. Uh-oh, Randall, are you here for something?
Yeah, I'm not on the agenda, so I can wait till public time.
Okay,
We already had that.
well, we're gonna come back with,
Not according to the agenda, we didn't.
give him a promotion, he gets technical on it. Well, we're trying to stay on the schedule, so 7:20, we're interviewing Heather, and I'm gonna do it again.
Budrevich.
Budrevich.
Road Davis.
Close?
How do you say it?
Budrevich is one way, Budrevich is another,
And Liz has a third one.
and Liz has a great third way too.
Can we just-
Budrevich.
What is it?
It was better last week, I think.
Rodrevich.
And I should be able to do it since I'm married to a Wachowski.
Rodrevich. Rodrevich. No, Rodrevich.
Why don't you take a seat
Getting there.
and
Work on it.
Where would you like me to sit?
right there would be good.
Right here?
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We're glad you could make it on such short notice, and I think we had some questions, or the board might have some follow-up questions for you. David, your end of the table?
So I take it you're still interested in the position?
I am. Right. Always interesting questions. I'm looking to advance my current career. Right now I am back to the assistant city clerk. I have been the assistant city clerk for 2.5 years, and for the past 6 months, from about 5 months actually, from August to December, I was the acting city clerk.
Can you turn the microphone?
Oh, sorry. I was the acting city clerk at that point. I have been working with population about 60,000. I'm actually looking to get more involved in municipal law or municipal government, and I want to get my hands deeper into the communities and learn more. I want to eventually grow. Eventually, someday, I'd actually like to work for a governor, which is years down the road. But the only way to get experience is to have more hands-on with communities, more oversight of the actual town hall itself, and eventually a large city hall, which is years down the road, to get to start somewhere. Right now, I just oversee city clerk's office of about 4 staff members. During election times, that is about 150 poll workers that I train and oversee, numerous functions. So this is really exciting and a great experience for me. At the same time, I have been, since I didn't know I was coming back here, I was putting in applications for city and town clerk positions, but this is really something I'm more interested in because it does allow me job advancement. City clerk is something, and town clerk is something that is a very specialty position where you're trained for it. That's what you're trained for. Not many people really obtain the skills over time to do it because you have to practice it. It's a practicum. It's almost like practicing law. If you don't have all the training to do it, it's not something you're actually qualified to do. And this is something I'm really interested and really excited to get into.
Can you refresh my mind, your ties to Western Mass and into Pioneer Valley? Have you spent time here?
I've spent a little time kayaking.
Okay.
That's about the extent of my ability to get my feet wet. I'm really interested and excited about Western Mass. I like the smaller populations, the larger population of animals to people.
Now, are you going to commute from?
No, I am not. I am relocating.
Okay, and what would your time frame be for relocation, would you say?
Within a month.
Okay.
I would have relocated before I start here.
So, in a sense, and this is really what does happen with town administrators. And if you read the newspapers closely, you see the dance. One of the more famous ones is Mr. Nixon, who was, I think, at some point president of the Town Administrator Association in Massachusetts or something like that. And he moved around a lot, Hadley and different areas. And we do see that. We do see our past administrator started off in a small town called Coleraine, came here, and now she's in Orange. Where's she now?
Orange.
She went to HCOG. She was at HCOG, and then she went to Orange. So, I get that. But I also know that I have to look up at what's important for the town. And I know there's a turnover every 2 to 3 years. Do you see that as your time frame, or do you see staying here longer? I mean, what do you see?
It's one of those things, it depends. Where I am now is just as an example. When I started out at the city clerk's office where I was, it had a history of a lot of disorganization. It had a history of a lot of processes had a great opportunity to be established and they weren't. So what I did, the way I operate sometimes, is I see what potential things have, and I work with the people who are there, and I work with the resources we have, and we develop things. So we went from a vault of vital records that were all over the place to an organized vault where everything had a place, everything made sense. We went from chaotic elections, because no one knew what was going where, to elections where we can have 3 or 4 a year and they run like clockwork. I've established processes. I've helped establish systems that work in the office. So at this point, if I were to leave, there are things in place that someone else can step in and they can take right over. So although it might be a bittersweet departure, someone else can easily take over from where I've left because of what work I've been able to accomplish. So the question you asked, I'm excited, I'm interested in coming. I can't tell you what the ultimate timeline would be. I'd love to say, okay, let's start out, let's say 3 years. Could it be 7? Could it be 10? It could be. Could it be just 3? It could be. It depends on what happens in 3 years. In 3 years, maybe you guys are like, hey, this is great, we don't need you anymore. Maybe you could be in 3 years, you know what, why don't you stay? We really like you.
Now, if in the process of sort of organizing there, say you had 2 employees.
Okay.
And they both were very good at their jobs, and things went well, except when they interacted. And when they interacted, it was difficult at best. And I'm not saying that one undermined the other, or the other one undermined, but it was very difficult. So how do you take 2 employees who were dead set against being nice to each other, how do you overcome that as a supervisor for the best of the town? How do you overcome that?
Well, first of all, you have to figure out what their interactions are with each other. So you have to figure out, okay, is this within the same office, or is this just within, you know, two different departments that are working together, or is this just within the town hall itself? Then you have to figure out, you know, what their functions are that they're interacting. Then the best thing is to figure out why they're having the problem that they're having. So you sit down, you talk with them, you see what you can figure out. You also ask around, hey, you've been here much longer than I have. What is your gist of what's going on here? You investigate, you see what you can do. And then you try to work with each of them individually, you work with them as a group, and you work with everyone as a whole.
Now say you can't get them to get along no matter what you do. What do you do?
Then you find a way around the problem. You find a way to make things work out. So if interacting is just not something that is going to work for the two of them, then you find a way to get the information from person A to person B without them interacting.
Okay.
That's the least wishful solution. You want to avoid it at all costs. But sometimes if that's your last option, that's your last option.
Now, are you a morning person? You in here at 4 or 5? Or are you coming in around 10:30? And what do you?
When I first started working at the office in Haverhill, there were a lot of things that needed to get done, a lot of things that needed to get done without people around. So I used to get a lot of guff from the janitors because I would show up a little bit before 5 in the morning. They'd be really upset because the lights weren't on yet. And usually I leave a little bit after 6. Now that everything runs very smoothly, I usually show up about 7:30, set up shop, and leave a little bit after 4. Okay. It just depends. During license season, it's obviously much later. During voting season, it's weekends, it's nights. It's what needs to be done.
David, can we let someone else?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who is that?
I mean, am I asking bad questions?
No. I'm just trying to...
I'm sorry, I'm just...
No, I'm just trying to spread the
Mike,
word.
go ahead, Mike, go ahead, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Liz.
So you're here because, you know, we wanted you to come back. So if you take this position, what would be the first, you know, 3 or 4 things that you might do to understand our town and town hall?
Sure. I think the first thing I would do was meet with all of you. One of the second things I would do is actually meet with all of the staff. Whether the easiest thing is to meet with everyone in the building as a whole, that would probably be one of my goals. I don't know if we can get to that right away, but that would be one of my best things to try. One of the third things would be to try to set up times where I could actually go into each of the departments and observe. That would take periods of time because, you know, everyone's busy and there's other things to get done. And definitely to meet with those I'd be working with, because someone who's already been doing the job and working in that office, she knows what's going on, and she's going to be able to tell me what's been happening, what's not been happening, what, you know, give us a focus of what's going on. That's 4.
That's good. You have a plan. I'll take it.
Okay, thanks, Liz.
Heather, we've been accused as select of not being able to communicate our wishes clearly and distinctly. I would like to know what your feelings on communication from this board through you to the public. How would you do that? Public and department heads.
Well, as far as communication goes, it's up to you what works best for you. I deal with people all day that have different forms of communication that work better for them, and we make it work. Some people, I think we discussed this last time, some people like email, some people like telephone, some people like sticky notes, some people like person to person. It just depends on what works for you guys. If you all have one unanimous method of communication that works, great. If everyone has a distinctual method, fine. I personally, I like routines. I'm a routine person. For instance, at the office, I like, you know, to do the bills on Tuesday, and on Wednesdays I do citations and claims, and on Thursdays we do contracts and bonds. We do certain things certain days of the week because it's easier to keep a routine up and remember what's going on, and that way it gets taken care of every single week. So if there's, for instance, Tuesdays, every Tuesday I'd like an email with an update of X and Y. Every Wednesday we want to know about this, or, you know, even if it's something different than that, whatever it is, whatever works for you guys. And I know it's going to be a trial by error thing. Some things are going to work out better, some things aren't.
Let me ask you this, let me be more blunt. If you need to get answers from the board just to clarify what you're thinking, what you're doing. Are you only going to use one method of communication, or are you going to use all methods exposed to you to get your answer in a timely fashion?
We'll use whichever method will get me the answer.
Okay.
What do you like to do? Do you like to face-to-face, drop an email, telegram?
I tend to use email a lot, only because it's usually something, I'm used to working in a very fast-paced office. So if the phone's ringing and I have paperwork on my desk and I'm popping an email at the same time, I can do 3 things. It's just a habit I picked up from what I've had to. I've adapted. But like anything else, I'm adaptable. So whatever works for you can work for me.
You're going to be dealing with 5 different personalities. Good luck.
Thank you.
Oh, I was thinking only 5 minutes. How about?
No, talking about this.
We'll make it work.
I'm all set.
Heather, my greatest concern is you've obviously worked in town government or city government, but you've never worked as a town administrator. And your resume seems to be lacking in general administrative experience in a town such as this or any town. You think you can do this job?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Why? I have a lot of skills that are very adaptable. I have a law degree, which is a very advanced degree and allows me to do many different things. It allows me to negotiate with people. It allows me to work on contracts. It has taught me how to read different things and understand what they mean. I deal with License Commission on a daily basis in my job currently, and License Commission is one of the things you deal with here in this position. License Commission also requires me to deal with numerous things at one time. This past year, I've actually, on my own, I'm the only person in my office who deals with it. I actually did, 90 liquor licenses, 200 common victualers licenses, 75 entertainment licenses, 45 car dealer licenses. That includes the applications that came in from November through December and issuing all the licenses, the report to the ABCC, and the meetings with the License Commission itself. So I've administered all of that, tracked all of the paperwork, and done all of that, meantime doing my regular duties, including all the amendments, all the paperwork, and handling all of the constituents that come into the office daily with any issues.
And I'm sure within the clerk's office, you're doing a wonderful job. I'm concerned about, our highway superintendent's sitting here, and we've got roads that need to be plowed, we've got trucks that are breaking down, and we've got an ambulance call going out somewhere, and the fire chief is gone, and they've got another ambulance call coming in and the desk over in the other town hall, the old town hall, is broken down. The dispatch center is broken down. How are you going to handle those kinds of things coming up with no experience in that, in any one of those issues on its own, let alone when they all pile on a bad day, on a sub-zero day when the water main breaks up on Pomeroy Meadow and and the school sidewalks haven't been shoveled and somebody slipped and fallen, and all these things are happening. How are you going to handle those kinds of administrative duties?
Well, I'm going to start by working with the resources I have, which in this case would be my assistant. Then I would go with, you're going to triage the issues as they all come in at the same time. So you're going to take the most critical first. Then you're going to work with all the resources you currently have. So you're going to look at all the phone numbers and all the information you have, and you're going to start making phone calls. Because I'm brand new, I'm not going to know all these answers right away. So I'm going to start with calling the highway superintendent. I'm going to start with calling whoever is responsible for doing the sidewalks. If I'm not sure, I'm going to get a hold of you guys and ask, hey, with regards to X, Y, and Z, where do I begin? What do I start with this? I'm going to make phone calls. I'm going to call the police department. I'm going to talk to the fire department, whoever I need to get the answers. I talk to the police department now on a daily basis. I talk to the fire chief's office now on a monthly basis. I work with and coordinate with other departments frequently. It may not be the same exact extent, but it's what I do. I operate and coordinate with these departments. I know how to work with them.
Does anybody else have anything? And then I want to just go over the process that I had outlined for tonight. Anybody else?
Do you have any questions for us?
I do not.
That was one single question.
Well, I've been through this process now, this is round 3, so all my questions have come up for the first 2.
I'm just giving her an opportunity.
Does the weather actually get any colder than it is now? 'Cause
Yes, it does.
every single time I've come out here, the temperature keeps getting colder.
It does get colder.
This is balmy out here right now. The plan is that we're going to have an executive session for ourselves, come back into open session with Heather for a few minutes, and then if we choose to go back into executive session to finish off the discussion, possibly with Heather.
Try to get everything wrapped up tonight, then, is what you're trying to do.
That's the plan.
Yes.
That's the plan.
Okay.
So if anybody has any other questions for Heather?
No.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Then we're going to go into executive session.
Before that, can we have open time for the public for?
Oh, Randall, yes. We can do open time for the public.
We'll do that now.
Yeah, sure.
All right, I just have the conflict of interest form. I need to.
Just got you zeroed in.
64 Fulmer Road. I have to be in compliance with the conflict of interest law. I have to get a ruling from you or a determination from you because I have current conflict of interest.
Through you or through a family member?
Through a family member.
You want to bring that up to us? Sure. And I think we'll be allowed to do that.
Yes.
The director was off stage there.
Permission to approach.
First time I've ever seen her do directions.
And I don't expect a determination tonight. I'm sure you're going to have to read that over.
Yeah, this is a multi-page document that has a lot of printing on it.
Right, but I just wanted to get it in front of you because I have already been contacted by subcontractors regarding this project, and I told them I can't give them any answers until this is sorted out.
Why don't we do this? We'll try and get you an answer for next week. I'll get this document out to everybody here so they can review it, and we'll put it on the agenda for next week at some point in time. And
Does that have to go to the attorney?
Is that fast?
No.
Okay.
Is that fast enough? 1 week?
It should be, yeah.
Okay.
So probably the fastest we can do it.
Okay. So I wanted to get into it with you.
If it's okay with you, this is going to go out to all 5 members so they can review it, and then when they come in next week, instead of sitting here and reading it at that point in time.
Okay.
All right. Any other open time for the public?
I have an issue that I'd like to discuss as well.
Okay.
So, Amanda Kemp, and 64 Fulmer Road. So my issue relates to my position on the Finance Committee and my job as a private attorney who handles real estate. So with Randy's appointment as the highway superintendent and contacting the Ethics Commission to discuss issues that I can and cannot vote on as a Finance Committee member with him being a department head, the issue arose with me being a private attorney and appearing in front of other boards in town. So I had a lengthy discussion with the Ethics Commission. I then tried to determine, and part of this hinges on what the Finance Committee is determined to be, whether they're a special town employee or not. I then did some research to determine what the Finance Committee is, and there is a small list that was voted on, it appears in 1995, by the Select Board, which only appoints a certain number of committees. And the Finance Committee is not one of them, who are special town employees. As a result, I then contacted the Enforcement Division of the Ethics Commission myself to file a report with them on actions that I had taken as a private attorney, appearing in front of the planning board, also appearing in front of the select board on behalf of someone. They aren't convinced that there's been an ethics violation. They said that they're going to review it and get back to me. But one of the suggestions they raised on both the advice side and on the enforcement side was that I come to you and ask you to appoint me individually as a special town employee so that I can continue to serve on the Finance Committee as well as appear in front of boards that are necessary. If you appoint me as a special town employee, I can then file a disclosure anytime I'm going to appear in front of a board explaining that I'm on the Finance Committee and what, if I'm going to be compensated by a private individual. My assumption is you're going to want to discuss it with town council or amongst yourselves, but I wanted to bring the issue to your attention. At this point, I don't have any current conflicts because what I've done is considered past behavior, but I'd like to remedy the situation and not have to resign from the finance committee because obviously it would affect my livelihood if I need to appear in front of the board again as a private attorney. So I don't know if you have any questions in relation to it, but
I think we've had this kind of issue with other volunteers, citizens have volunteered on other boards, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but there hasn't really been a big issue in appointing a special or not. I mean, I don't recall.
I just don't remember doing, I know we've had talks about it, but I don't remember doing it.
We did for Doug Blanchard because he was...
For limited purposes, though, I think.
He was, you know, he's doing work in town and there were some issues. I don't even think if Ed was, if you were at some point...
Well, I have a similar thing to bring up now what we're talking about.
Look at the ones you've already appointed.
Could I look at that, please? Thank you.
How do you define a special town employee? What does that mean?
It's basic from what I could determine. It's basically a determination so that people who are town employees or people who do things in front of town boards can serve on committees in town. And considering the size of Southampton, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of the boards or committees to be special town employees because there are a lot of employees in town that serve on those boards.
So what happens if you decide to be on a different committee? Does that special town employee title travel with you, or does it just...
It's going to depend on how you voted. If you vote that I'm allowed to participate as a special town employee on the finance committee, then that's what it's going to govern. If you were to say that I would be considered a special town employee across the board, and I decided to be on another committee, I mean, I would think you'd want to do it specifically for finance committee purposes.
Just to be clear, these were designated as special town employees, people on these boards?
From what I understand,
Yes, they were.
from the town clerk.
There was one that was done after that, too. That's 95, but we did one several years ago.
That was the only one.
And I don't know if they were just a re-notification of those same departments, but we did that just before he came in, well, maybe about 4 years ago.
I mean, there are a lot of committees and boards that are missing from there. I don't know if you've done anything since then. I mean, school committee's not on there, historical commissions, I mean, there's...
Well, I don't think that the intent is to make all employees in that.
No.
According to the Ethics Commission, they said most towns either give everybody that designation, or they give nobody that designation. They said that's what they tend to state. The Finance Committee is one of those committees that tend to be on a per-person basis because it's touch and go in a small town if you allow town employees to serve on the Finance Committee and have authority over other people in town that they may work with.
Your own employees.
So, which is not the case I fall into. If I appear in front of the board, it says private counsel for a town citizen.
Well, I'd hate to lose a volunteer because it's hard enough to get people to serve on boards, and I'd be in favor in granting it. I'll make a motion to go ahead and grant the special.
Well, going ahead, how about making a motion to appoint Amanda Kemp as a special town employee? Is that what you're looking for, Amanda?
Yes, that is what I'm looking for.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
While we're on it, I talked to the Ethics Commission for a while in regards to what the board's wishes were, that I would mentor or advise the new highway superintendent. And they advised me, contrary to what was in the paper, that there is an exemption for towns with a population of 10,000 and under. The boards of selectmen are all special town employees, whether they want to be or not, with under 10,000 population. In order for me to assist the new superintendent, I would have to fill out a form similar, not the same form, but a form designated D20 of the Ethics Board, stating what I was doing and also my dollar amount that I would be compensated for that job. And if the board wishes for me to do that, I will submit it. If not, I won't submit it. But that is an exemption, and they also recommended that I be designated a special town employee.
But you already are.
I am on my various boards, but not as an individual. But that would have to go after the board takes a vote for me to go into, to do that special mentoring and advising the highway superintendent.
What's the plan with that, Michael?
Well, we stopped the plan because we weren't sure of the status.
Right. And I talked to the ethics lawyer, and they sent me the form. I have the form, but before I fill it out, I just want to make sure the board's wishes are, so they want me to do it.
I guess the question is, does the form go first or the vote go first?
The form goes first.
So you
I will fill out the form if you want it.
and
Please.
then we take a vote.
I think it's important to have a good transition, and I think you need to mentor Mr. Kemp. You have to be there.
But this form has to be done.
Yes, if you could.
It is an exemption under the law because we have a population of 10,000 and under.
Transition's important to get it done smoothly.
So someone want to make a motion that Mr. Colley, we request that Mr. Colley complete the form
And submit it.
and submit it to do the mentoring?
For next week.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I abstain.
So we have a special K.
All right, so to reiterate what I said before, we are in open session now. My intention was, or my thought was, go into executive session with the board alone, come out of executive session, maybe discuss some things with Heather, then go back into executive session, maybe with Heather, depending on
What she wants.
what she wants to do. So, that being said, so we're going to have an open session. At the end of all of that, we will have another open session. So if you really
If
want
you want to
to,
stick around, George, we'll watch you on TV.
next to the fire, sipping a
They want guys.
adult beverage.
Stay warm, please. You get an old drafting house like I do.
You want us to read them? The guy that was in the
I think that's, he came with her.
Oh, okay.
All right, so motion to go, do I have a motion to go in executive session?
McDougal, aye.
Molten eye.
Bill and I.
Colley, aye.
For the purpose of what, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, off. Subsection 21, number 3, town administrator contract. All right, the select board has met in executive session to discuss the town administrator contract, and at this point in time, Heather, we'd like to offer you the position of town administrator in Southampton. Would you like to discuss that further with us?
Yes, please.
In that case, we'd like to go back into executive session to discuss the terms of the contract with you. Is that agreeable to you?
Sounds good.
I would accept the motion under Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, subsection 21, number 3, to discuss town administrator contract terms.
Second. McDougal, aye.
Molten eye.
Beal and I.
Colley, aye.
We will be coming back into open session after this executive session is complete.
Do you want your dad to stay?
Would you like to stay?
Well, it's up to you.
There's no deep secrets that happen here.
Well, it better not be, because
Some nice stuff there.
Northampton's nice, too.
All right, we're on the air again, and I'd like to make an announcement that we have had discussions with Heather off in executive session, and we've offered her the position of town administrator at a salary of $56,000 a year, and she has accepted. We are going to contingent upon 3 things. 1, the completion of the criminal background check, receipt of a certificate of good standing by the Supreme Judicial Court because of her attorney status, review of the contract by town attorney, and we will send it to her for signature. The anticipated start date is March 3rd, and it's a 3-year contract. Everybody?
Yes, sounds
Yes.
Good. Congratulations.
Congratulations. I hope you got your father a good dinner.
Yes, I already fed him.
you already planned me.
Thank you.
We'll let you know the good spots the next time you come out.
Thank you, and I'll look at
I think she'll do a good job for you.
Oh, it's probably
We'll cook
the
and roll this just now.
more information
All right.
online.
I don't think she'll
And
do
I
a
don't
good
know
job.
what your budget is, but there's this little tiny house for rent.
She'll do you
All
proud.
the time I lose.
I got one of those at home. Well, not at home anymore,
Mostly
but
for like hardwood.
you know, I used to kid my wife. We sent her to the bake
All right, I
camp
don't know about
because she
that,
was
but
the baker.
I will keep
We'll argue with
posted,
you more.
and I will. Westfield
still got
Evening
paid for it,
News.
so she could argue more.
Things online, and then that's what. Having a-
Well, child abuse now.
Dad, nice to meet you. My name's David.
Dave?
Thank you.
Liz,
Liz.
nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, what's your name again? Mike. Ed. Okay.
Okay.
Have a good trip back.
Thank you so much.
I think you're going to beat the weather. Is there supposed to be a little snow there?
No.
No, they're gonna get it. It's gonna be
There's
nice and
nothing.
warm. So when she comes down here, see, I like the tour. I haven't had a tour down here on two wheels. This part of the state, don't ask me why, but I haven't. But you know what? I might tour down here just in case.
You're always welcome, sir.
You're going to get spoken to when you get outside, I think.
Can we talk?
You're going to hear it all the way back.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We have some things we have to do. We have a one-day hold harmless, or one-day alcohol permit
Make a motion to approve.
Is that for the library?
for the library.
Yep.
Second?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Just one signature, right?
No, the yellow one requires everything. Let's see, what else do we have? I thought Masick was coming in because she has these things here. I'll have to wait for Reggie to come back.
And that's a Friends of the Library fundraiser on Friday, February the 7th, from 5 to 7.
We get 4 PCFs.
We do?
Yeah, we get the, coming back from finance, Randall Kemp for highway super, Randall Kemp promoted, Ed Colley retirement resignation, whatever it is, and 1 Cynthia Jean Lucier, no, Cynthia Jean Lucier, I guess?
Yep.
Is this fire?
She's on call at the library,
Oh, that's right.
you know.
Did that go to the PQB yet?
What's that?
Yeah,
Go to the PQB yet?
Yeah, it's all signed.
but it doesn't have a department on here. That's what's going on.
Library. Barbara Golden?
Yeah, but there's no department.
right here.
Oh, right, oh, there it is. All right. Thank you. Do I have a motion to sign?
Motion to sign the PCF for Randall Kemp, Ed Colley, and
Randall Kim.
Randall Kemp,
And
Ed
Lucia.
Colley, and Miss
Lucia.
Lucia.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I get Reggie back here, I gotta see what this stuff from Masick is for.
If there's anybody in the public that would be willing to help organize the Memorial Day Parade, please contact Jacqueline Sears.
Oh, Jackie's in charge of that now?
She is, and she needs some help to organize the parade.
Oh, this is to do with the grant with South Hadley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I thought we already approved
I
all.
thought we already signed it.
Is required certification page.
Does the town clerk have to be part of that?
No, it's for the application, but it requires my chairman's signature.
I make a motion to have Mike sign the Pioneer Valley grant process for Southampton in Southampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There's 2 copies of that. So that's done. I would say we're done.
Make a motion to,
We have a meeting next week now.
We do?
Who's going to go to Finance Committee next week? Does anybody know what's on the agenda?
I went this week. If you need me to go next week, I'll go again, but
hey, do you mind going next week?
I can go too. Somebody.
I'm going to be sending you a letter
okay.
for next week, so you might want to
Between the two of us, somebody will be there.
Okay, that
take
sounds
a
good.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
You have it with you?
No, I got to send it to you.
Thank you.